Hey everyone, welcome to another AOC video. I do want to apologise for the lack of videos as of late. I can explain why there hasn't been any. Since AOC meetings come under an NDA, it means that sometimes things that are spoke about are not allowed to be shared outside of the meeting. In the last two previous meetings, 90% of the feedback was marked as do not share, so I don't really see a point in making a whole video and only giving the same response as I cannot tell you what Hyuga said in regard to these suggestions. Anyway, this meeting was better. We had some good feedback from the devs and we are allowed to share most of it. I actually did ask the devs if we could have more feedback that was allowed to be shared with the community, since that's the whole point of the AOC. Okay, so on to the first AOC member, Jamiras. His main topics were balance, modes and trials of the realm. Jamiras started off by stating that he believes the majority of the balance should be made from high level players, such as ex-pro players, and said that win rate should not dictate a champion's decision on a nerf or a buff. Hyuga said in response that they do look at high-level performance of champions but believe it shouldn't be the only point of balance. They said that the majority of Paladins players are not playing the game at a competitive level but will continue to take these stats into account when balancing. Jamiras also asked for Barrack's Forge Fight and Fernando Aegis nerfs, and if you read the latest patch notes, both of these will be going through, with Barrack's Forge Fight turrets not going through shields and some nerfs of Fernando's shield, such as a delay on recharge if the shield is completely destroyed. Additionally, Eevee and Ying buffs are brought up as well. Eevee will be getting a buff next patch where the time it takes to activate Blink will be reduced by half. Ying buffs were discussed internally. Jamiras also requested that Leon's auto-aim abilities should be nerfed, taking the damage down from 400 to 200. Hyuga did acknowledge this suggestion, but that is all I can say for now. I'm not going to go through every single little suggestion, otherwise this video will be way too long to digest, but his last main points were buffing Cauterize. I also brought up Cauterize in my suggestions, so I'm going to combine the feedback from Hyuga right here about what they had to say about Cauterize, since I know it's something that is suggested to me and I'm sure other AOC members a lot. Hyuga does hear the community in regards to higher court, however they are trying to find a solution to put healers in a better place without increasing the court numbers. They want to explore alternatives to Cauterize first, for better item diversity and more reasonable healing variants. I believe from what they have said here, they want to make Cauterize less of a mandatory item in the game but still have the item have power. This statement from Hyuga does not mean buffing Cauterize is completely out of the question forever. They're currently brainstorming ways to find alternatives to the fact, mainly by putting supports in a healthier spot in the game. As per all my previous AOC videos, all the suggestions can be found in a linked document in the description. Next AOC member was Hyuga. His main topics were Vivian rework and a new game mode idea. Hyuga went into such great depth about a rework for Vivian, which personally I thought would be a great change for such a boring and hard to balance champion. He suggested to ditch the light machine gun and make her ultimate drones be her primary weapon, as such making her somewhat of a blaster instead of a hit scan. I'll link his full rework idea in the description since it's very lengthy but worth a read in my opinion. Hyuga's other suggestion was a new game mode called Abyss Arena. To summarise his idea, it would be a PvEVP where 10 players fight each other in a large arena-like map while also defending themselves against AI-controlled abyssal creatures and mini-bosses. Again, he goes into great detail about his idea, which can be found in the description. Now for Hyuga's response, drumroll. The ideas were greatly appreciated given the time it must have taken Hyuga to formulate everything, however that's all I can really say for their response unfortunately. That was everything from Hyuga. Next up was Sterile Tick. His main topics this meeting was concerns regarding support tickets. Since Sterile Tick has become an AOC member, he has received various complaints about support tickets and the lack of help the customer service team is to the community when they have issues, such as the GM rank frame. We were actually gracious enough to have some of the customer service team in the meeting with us to meet Sterile's concerns. The main one being the automated response such as "this is being forwarded," which actually means they have done all they physically can for now and have forwarded the complaint to the right department. You have to remember that not everyone who works at Hyuga is a game dev, meaning they can't wave a wand and fix things like bugs and other issues immediately. A lot of the time the customer service team can be oversaturated with support tickets, so the auto response just confirms that they have seen your ticket and have sent it on its way to whichever department is needed to hopefully solve the issue. To add to Sterile's part in regards to players not receiving their GM rank frame, he asked if the issue has now been completely closed, and Hyuga confirms it is now closed. They have confidence in their data that who should have received the frame should now have it. Cyberbot was next. His main topics were community requests and some feedback. His first suggestion was to increase the requirements to join ranked queues, such as increasing the number of champions you should have unlocked. He said that since there are now 6 bans in ranked, 12 champions are simply not enough to ensure an appropriate pick. Hyuga's response was unfortunately marked yellow for this, so all I can tell you is that they hear his concerns regarding this. He also spoke about Ray and wanting a visual indicator when you are enveloped and being ulted by Ray. He also asked if her chain heal could not bounce to full HP targets. The dev's response to the chain heal was it's on its way for patch 7. Cyber also asked about a bunch of other suggestions such as Legacy VGS, which is the old VGS, on console, extra loadout slots, changing Guardian's icon and screen shake. Unfortunately, all these suggestions were also marked yellow, which means I cannot tell you exactly what Hyuga said in regards to these, but most of them were positive. So Marion was after Cyberbolt. Her suggestions were balance and addressing PS4 crashes. Her first suggestion for balance was Atlas, a nerf to Phantom Pain, the card that reduces the cooldown of his status field. The dev's response was marked yellow again, so unfortunately cannot tell you about their thoughts at this time. Deep Roots Grover and Alacrity Lian were brought up for suggested nerfs. Hyuga's already confirmed a Deep Roots nerf for Grover, which will be live next patch. The nerf will be that the initial enemy rooted will still receive the full CC, but changed nearby enemies will now only be slowed 35% for 2 seconds. The Lian nerf suggestion was discussed internally. Lastly for Mariam, she spoke about the PS4 crashes that have been happening more frequently since the Genlock update. This information has been passed to QA so they can investigate the issues for PlayStation 4. Tana Disney suggestions were about balance and general feedback. She brought up buffs for Octavia, Strix, and Terminus's ultimate. She also mentioned adding a cooldown for Vartu's dashes, as she believes it will be easier to track. Which I really hope they don't do, because Vartu's mobility is perfectly fine in my opinion. I just think he needs a little look at his DR card. Hyuga has already confirmed in the latest patch notes that Octavia and Strix will be receiving buffs, and Vartu is getting a nerf to Enveloping Shadows, the talent where he gets a cooldown reduction on his basic abilities after hitting an enemy with at least 1 kunai. This is going down from 15% to 12%. Okay, so I was next. I brought up, as mentioned earlier, Cauterize, in-game features and some balance. I already spoke about Cauterize, so my first suggestion was map voting. A while ago, someone sent me a really awesome idea on how to implement map voting into the game. Theoretically, I could only see this working for ranked, but the idea would be to change the rank cube join button with a selection of 3 maps, by which when you pick the map you want, you are confirming your queue to the ranked. The map with the most votes would be the one that would load in. This is my really amazing drawing of this idea so you can visualize it better. Hyuga did like the idea, but that's all I can say for now. I spoke about bringing back kill cams, mainly due to the fact that it's incredibly hard to identify cheaters in casuals due to no replay options. Also, I thought it was just a nice feature. Hyuga said that they are saddened that the kill cams had to go, but the system was incredibly bug ridden and it also required updating with every new champion. In its old state, it unfortunately isn't an option to bring back. My last feature I spoke about, which surprisingly isn't already in the game, is limiting the FPS on the main screen and in draft to take the load off your GPU when it's not actually in a match. The devs were surprised it wasn't already in the game, but that's all I can tell you about that. I had a few balance suggestions, which most of them were either spoke about by other AOC members or Hyuga has already addressed. Some of the ones that were discussed was adding a visual marker for Io's ultimate path, making the heal from Grok's spirit domain go through enemy shields if your teammate is behind it, and reducing the amount of ammo consumption on Kinessa's new Eagle Eye. That was pretty much everything for me. Lastly was Alive. He asked for multi-server queue, which he believes would reduce waiting times for ranked and increase the amount of players, therefore better matchmaking. The devs found this idea interesting, but that was marked yellow, so that's all that can be said unfortunately. And that was the AOC meeting concluded. There were some suggestions not covered in this video which can be found in the Google Doc in the description. I will definitely do AOC videos if the devs give us good valuable feedback, so hopefully next meeting goes similar to this. If you want to join in the conversations on how to get your suggestions through to AOC members, you can find them linked in the description. I also have a Discord server with a voting system that if your suggestion is well received, it will most likely be sent directly to Hyuga or I'll bring it up in an AOC meeting. Thank you for listening and I'll see you next video.